What's happening, everybody? Thanks for joining us on Cinema Recap. Today, we're gonna take a look at Iron Doors. Spoilers ahead. A random guy slowly wakes up and finds himself in a vault. It's the flies, actually, that rouse him. They're feeding on a rat that has been placed nearby, and the discovery startles him as the first thing he sees once he wakes up. He's looking around a bit to gauge his predicament, but then he thinks it's a practical joke. He checks his watch and it says 9:32. He also checks a big round door to the vault to see if it opens. Well, he can't seem to shift the handle, so he moves on. And there's a locked locker in the room. And he gauges that padlock, puts his nose to the vents of that locker, but a fly buzzes out and into his nose. Disgusted is how he feels. Mind you, he still thinks it's a joke, and he tries to talk to whoever put him there. He's even checking for security cameras. Now he's dressed as if he was on a night out. He's got his blazer on and a pair of jeans. And that same carefree party attitude has followed him into the vault. For instance, he wants to pee, and so he goes to the corner of the vault and eases himself pleasurably. Can I hear you say, oh, who knew peeing was so relaxing? Well, he's doing it to taunt his captors. Note that this move might be counterproductive because soon enough, he would need all the hydration he can lay his hands on. He's not getting any feedback, so he's angry and walks up to the vault door. And while screaming, he's banging on that iron door repeatedly. He's getting no response, so he takes off his belt and tries to make his knock seem louder with that metal head on the belt and all, when he still gets no results. He turns his anger and attention to the locker and continually abuses it both verbally and physically. Poor locker. He even manages to climb on top of the locker as tall as it is. Now he can see the extent of his little kingdom. So it's day 2. And he's still in this vault. The fly's eggs from just yesterday have begun to mature into maggots now and, they're feeding on a rat. The man has his jacket over his head as he wakes up. So he gets up and clumsily drops his phone, making it shatter. Before now, he's been trying to find a signal, but wasn't getting those bars. As such, the phone might as well be useless, all things considered. Now, he realizes he's thirsty. So he goes to the corner, but this time he collects his urine in one of his shoes. Get this, he drinks it all up. Delicious. At least he's learned to value the importance of recycling. He yells out to whoever is on the other side, "Are ya happy now?" And now he's starting to think about food and briefly stares at that maggot-infested rat. But then he kicks it away and does some more yelling at no one in particular. He's reaching for the overhead fluorescent light, and it rattles a bit. He probably played basketball in another life. And this is when he spots a key inside the light with his eagle-eye vision style. He brings that light down without damaging it and finds the key to the locker. Well, he hesitates before opening it. There might be a dead body inside or something even more dangerous, who knows? But when he does open it, he finds 2 canisters of gas and a blowtorch. There's some goggles too and a hammer with a high-caliber chisel. Now, he's no mechanic or artisan, but slowly and surely, he gets around assembling the equipment. He tests the heavy door with the hammer and chisel, and then he fires up the blowtorch, turns it towards the sprinkler system in hopes that it would rain, but, nothing happens. At least he has a blowtorch to distract from his desperate situation. And now he tries his luck on the big door proper. It fires and blows, and he checks to see if there's a dent, but nope, there's nothing. So he becomes angry and starts trashing the place. Problem is, all he has to really vent his anger upon is that locker and dangling fluorescent. So when he gets tired of kicking that locker, he sits on the floor and he starts to talk to himself, probably going crazy already, and only on the 2nd day. And that's a record for the fastest time going crazy while in isolation. Otherwise, it ought to be a test of his resilience, and the voice in his head even talks back. One good thing though, is that it points him to a small hole in the wall. And so he picks up the hammer and chisel to work this angle. Well, then he gets angry when a chip flies off the wall into his eye. Starts cussing, but you gotta go on. Eventually, he achieves a reasonable dent in that wall, but he's extremely drained. He's looking at that dead rat now. And then he tries one maggot for taste. Not bad. He then picks them all up, a handful of them, and throws them into his mouth. Gah! Then goes off to pee in his shoe and flushes that maggot protein down. And then he almost pukes, but you know what? We're feeling that one too. So, And after all that, he has a little strength. Who knew maggots with urine on the side could double as an energy snack? Soon enough, our man strikes some metal wall reinforcement. And now it's blowtorch time, and he's able to cut through the rods. Now it's a small hole that might not yet fit a man, but it's something nonetheless. He ends up going to sleep, and later on he's woken by another buzzing fly. Well, that sleep really didn't do anything because you could still see he's drained. So he resumes chiseling, and soon enough, he's encouraged because it seems that he's broken through to the other side. Well, now he's motivated to put a lot more work in. So he chisels and chisels till that hole is big enough to squeeze himself through. Now, once on the other side, it's the same story and he's frustrated. It's another vault, similar to the one he just left, but with a minor change in the furniture and decor. Unlike his, which came with a locker, this vault has a lamp and a coffin, of all things. He quickly stretches into the hole to get that chisel from the other end. So, we don't know what's lurking in that box and he has to defend himself. He slowly opens that lid and, surprise, it's a sleeping African beauty. Well, that same beauty screams at the top of her lungs when she becomes conscious, and she even slides through the hole to visit his vault. She's imagining that he wants to kill her, and you know what? No one can blame her for that. He's trying to explain their situation to her, but, she's not buying this. So the man puts out the lights on her side and goes to sleep in her coffin. On her part, she tosses the rat to him and tries to ease herself in the corner. Welcome to day 3. The man's sleeping in until a woman climbs through the hole and firstly gets rid of that rat, which is anywhere but where she is presently. And she wakes him up by turning on some fashionable lamps. She's urging him to continue working on that wall. Well, he's clumsy and exhausted even after sleeping, and he might be able to go on if she can lend a hand. He asks her to hold the chisel while he tries to hit it, and she does, but as the hammer's about to be applied, she takes her hands away to avoid the blow. Well, she's afraid for her hands, so they decide to switch places. So he holds the chisel while she hammers away, but problem is, her blows are, a little weak and barely leave a mark on the wall. And he starts laughing at their progress so far, as if that'll compensate for his thirst and hunger. But you know what? She continues chipping away at that wall while he's all reminiscing. Soon enough, she hurts her finger, and also wants to go pee in the other vault. Well, he follows her indecently, and she's thinking he wants to take advantage of her, so she holds up a sharp piece in self-defense. And now he has to explain to her the art of recycling piss. So he pretty much wants her to pee in his shoes so that he or they can drink it up and, stay hydrated. Well, that's a bit extreme, and the woman knows that too. So, she refuses to pee in his shoes. Maybe with a little convincing she will. Or even the prospect that he might die from dehydration, and she'll be left all alone to break through the wall with her delicate muscles. In essence, the man lays the facts down. He's got to drink some liquid, or else their chances are slim. So she picks up a shoe from the floor, asks that he turn around. After multiple tries from her, over her dignity and decency, he agrees to turn around. And when she's done, she hands that shoe to him, and he drinks up. And he even has the mind to leave some for her too. And she drinks. Now the man eyes the maggot factory of a rat again and samples a juicy maggot. The woman almost pukes at the sight. So they're back at her side, trying to break through a new wall. And the woman starts crying. Is she being punished for something she did? You'd imagine both of them are. Well, to cheer her up, he starts his singing, and she cracks a smile at him. You really can't help but admire his attitude the whole way through. He's determined to crack this conundrum he and they both are in, always with a cheer, while seeming to converse with and pull his so-called captors along every step he takes. So he continues, chiseling and singing, and she continues smiling. There's only so much he can do to keep that cheerfulness up, and so he stops altogether. But graciously for her, she picks up from where he left and starts singing one of her own. It's one of those working men tunes, like when the tune is the same beat and tempo as their movements, and she's singing, pounding that hammer and chisel to the same tempo. It's actually fun up until he hits his finger with a blow from the hammer, so he's bleeding as she tears a piece of cloth from her head tie and wraps it around his hand. And true to character, he's not giving up, but continues to hold that chisel as he encourages her to apply the hammer blows this time around. Seems that the music lessons pay off because something miraculous starts to happen. Every time she hits the chisel, the iron door opens a little. The man also figured out they must approach that door with their backs turned and not look. Otherwise, it starts to close again. So they approach the door with their butts first. By the time they're close enough to it, it opens completely and lets them in, or rather, they let themselves into yet another strong room similar to the last two. Now this one's comprised of a singular gravesite. There's an odd red tombstone with no inscriptions on it, placed as it should be while marking a hole dug up in the ground that is typically big enough to take an adult-sized coffin. Now this puzzles him somewhat, just like the other strong room, except this is more dramatic. Even more so, the source of light for this room is a fallen chandelier. Maybe they can try out the same method from the other room that got them this far. And so, without trying to look, they're chiseling and chip a little at a time with their backs turned to that iron door. But nothing happens, and so the most sensible thing to do is dig deeper into the grave. It's hard work digging a grave, even if in their case most of it is already done. Now the man's exhausted for having to break through anything for 3 days straight without adequate food and drink. It isn't long before he collapses and can't go any further. He essentially gives up. Now the woman tries to console and encourage him, but with his last strength ever, he points that chisel at her and threatens her if his captors don't free him. It's a bluff, however, on both sides of the game. I mean, he doesn't even have the heart or strength for it, so, let it rest. He's so weak he can't even lift an arm, to talk less of himself. He's so weak he can barely lift an arm, and she tries to help him up, but he's not budging. She even slaps and kicks him to motivate him in her own way, but still, not responding. She carries him over to the edge of the grave and is able to lay him down properly. And then she starts to cry for being overwhelmed at everything. She also has the sense to feed the man her tears. Maybe they can revive him. Well, he recovers long enough to feel his hands on her chest. Her heart is pounding. What if these are their last few moments alive? How would they like to spend it? Irrespective of his exhaustion, the man isn't even averse to the company of a woman in his dying moments. Apparently, of all the things you can't do if you're drained of energy, sex isn't one of them. Turns out you can still make love to a partner come hell or high water. Or is it of ill health and high fever? Kama Sutra position curators might beg to differ. She undresses him and is kinda concerned about his reproductive member, but he reassures her. She climbs up on him and he has just enough alertness to take off her top and compliment her beauty. And so, they do the deed in the middle of the vault. It's a super titillating experience, enough said. It's a while before our boy gets up and gets himself free from his latest partner. So he goes for the coffin and tears off the upholstery with a little whiff of strength that he has, and he takes it to where the woman is laying, and wraps her all around with it, then promptly gets back to sleep. Oh, what a gentleman. Some other guy might as well have cannibalized her, or at least the dead rat by now. Small wonder, the woman gave it all up to him. Take some notes, guys. If you're stuck anywhere with just you and a member of the opposite sex, please be the man and lose your ego. Or simply just be nice to her even if the circumstances suggest otherwise. All that chivalry pays off because, as they lay there, the man is woken to the sound of the iron door opening. He wakes her up and ensures that they're not looking at that iron door as it slowly opens. As usual, they're moving with their backs and bumps to the door, slowly but surely. They can barely manage to walk. And as that iron door opens, there's a bright light. At last they're freed. And now it's back to the civilized world. And not so fast, people, because we're seeing what these two see, and it's some kind of paradise. Yes! Instead of opening up to the real world, with probably bank staff milling around or something, seeing they've been in 3 vaults so far. Or perhaps an abandoned bank building opening up to a street with cars in real life. Rather, we see a paradise, Adam and Eve style. Really not what I was expecting. But these two seem to be happy and relieved. For their sake, I also see a waterfall in the distance. And that was the movie. Thanks for chilling with us to the end. This was our recap of Iron Doors, a 2010 German 3D thriller film directed by Stefan Manuel. Our 2 stars of the movie are Axel Wedekind and Rengano Nyoni. If you guys felt the recap, go ahead and throw a like. And if you like the channel, well, hit subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell for more content. Till next time.